Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Good morning, MotoAmerica fans, or maybe it's good evening or good afternoon or whatever. This is Paul Carruthers, and I'm the communications manager for MotoAmerica, which is the home of the AMA Superbike Series and 4 other classes. This is our weekly podcast, Off Track, and I'm joined, as always, by Sean Bice, who happens to be in Ohio. I'm situated in sunny Southern California at the moment, and we're going into the holiday season here, and all of us, I think, are chomping at the bit a little bit to get back to motorcycle racing. I don't know about you, Sean, but for some reason, the off season just sometimes drags along a little bit. I think the holidays will speed things up, and then we'll jump in with both feet and get this thing ready to go. But it's just like I'm looking forward to being at that barber test.
Yeah, I think good morning, Paul, and it is morning somewhere in the world. But I agree with you. After we get through the holidays, everything really speeds up a lot. This time of year is always interesting. It's why they call it silly season. I think people are extra anxious this year with different teams because there's been some movement, obviously, with the Yamaha team. And there's a lot of teams that have yet to announce their plans yet. But, we're hearing bits and pieces of stuff coming in unofficially. So hopefully in the next few weeks, we can find out some more about it. But yeah, after the holidays are over, it'll be, before we know it, we'll be having that test and the season will start. So always good to have this podcast every week with you so we can touch base. One of the things I want to ask you about real quick is, since I'm in Ohio, and I think you told me the MotoAmerica office Christmas party or holiday party, I should say, is after you're done with this podcast. I can't get there in time. So, I guess you'll have to have a cocktail or two for me.
Yeah, I can. That's a pretty good excuse to double up what I'm going to do. So I'll keep you in mind, and I won't even feel guilty about it. But we're heading out of here when I'm finished with the podcast, and I think we're just going to it's like a local brewery. I haven't been to it yet, and all of us will get together and have a couple of beers and eat some dinner and tell stories. So it'll be kind of fun. It usually is, and Richard's here, and Chuck and Wayne and everybody. So it'll be kind of cool we don't always get together. It's sometimes the only time we see all of us is at the races, and then everybody's kind of got their deal where we're not always together. So it'll be kind of fun. Yeah,
that's awesome. Have fun and say hi to everybody for me.
I will. So today, as we were just talking about, with silly season and people not always having firm plans, sometimes it's difficult to get a guest on that actually knows what they're doing next year. Fortunately, today we have Sean Dylan Kelly, who definitely knows what he's doing, I imagine.
Did I hear unfortunately or fortunately?
I think I said fortunately, but if I said unfortunately, then that's very unfortunate, and I'm sorry. but Sean Dylan Kelly, at least he knows. He may not know what exactly he's doing, but he knows who he'll be doing it for. He's back with M4 X-Star Suzuki for next year. Sean actually had an incredible season for somebody. I mean, he's a real rookie. He started the season at 16 years old. He finished 4th in the Supersport Championship. We're not talking about Junior Cup here. We're not talking about a lower level class of any kind. We're talking about Supersport and MotoAmerica, which is highly competitive. He finished 4th in the championship with 2 wins and 7 podiums. And I think that's a good place to start, Sean. It's like just be honest with me. If someone would have told you that those were the results you would have earned in your first year, would you have been surprised, or would you have been like, yeah, that's what I thought I'd get?
Wait, first, which Sean are we talking about?
Come on.
I was thinking the same thing, but I think it's you, okay, Dylan Kelly.
The other Sean hasn't won anything.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he's quite proud of working with Paul.
Yeah, I'm a winner in life. See, that's what that's all about.
Right. You see?
All right, you taught me my lesson. I'm going to go Sean Dylan Kelly the rest of the show.
There we go. All right. First of all, like you guys said, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, whatever whatever it may be, whoever's listening. So thank you guys for having me again. We have done this once, so it's nice to share some time talking with you guys and, share some information with the fans listening. But yeah, straight to the question. Honestly, I do have to be proud with my rookie season, considering that a year ago, I didn't really know what I was going to race or even if I was going to race. It definitely turned out to be one of the best case scenarios this year. It was definitely a big year for me in terms of learning. It's been a big change going from a Moto3 bike that I've been running the last 3 years to now jumping on a 600 and, much heavier bike with a much different riding style, a lot more horsepower. And overall, it's just a big learning curve for me. Pretty much, I think 80 or 90% of the tracks were new for me this year. And we obviously don't have too much time to learn a track in MotoAmerica with the short sessions and all that. So it was definitely a huge year in terms of learning. Not only on track but also off of track. I obviously had to do a lot in terms of the physical standpoint just because I got on the 600. But anyways, I'm gonna try and not curve too much. The year was definitely something to be proud of. At the end of the day, we're all riders and we all have the same, or most of us have the same mentality that, I think I could have done a little bit better or I would have liked to do a little bit better, but that's just how we think. We always want to give a little bit more. And I think that's just, part of the positive attitude, but definitely super proud of this year and super proud of the work that we did with the team as well.
Yeah, I think you have nothing to complain about. And my second question is, you haven't moved to Pittsburgh yet, right?
Honestly,
Sean Dillon, that's a joke, Sean.
I'm still thinking about it, though. I love that place too much.
Right. Well, the reason I say that, for those who don't know, that's where Sean Dillon Kelly had his 2 wins this season. They were back-to-back in Pittsburgh. And real quick, I mean, again, there was, when you beat Bobby Fong, had his big crash in race 1 and you won that race. The following day,
Yep.
He was on crutches. He was obviously injured. He sucked it up and rode really well. And you barely beat him to win your second race. And there was people that were like, "Oh man, I can't believe he beat Bobby." Blah blah blah. And to me, if anything I saw you do the entire year, that's what impressed me the most, because I think it sort of showed what you were about. Because, I mean, I hate to say babyface killer, but that's kind of what you were. I mean, it was like, you know what? I'm going to beat this guy because this is what I need to do for my career, is to win motorcycle races. And he's my buddy. He's my teammate. He's hurt, but I'm not going to roll over and let the guy beat me. Is that kind of what goes through your head?
Yeah. Thank you, Paul, first of all. And honestly, yeah. He's my teammate. And it was definitely a little nerve-wracking for especially the team. I know Chris and John were holding their heads that last lap in race 2, but also for me, I really couldn't screw anything up, especially considering he was fighting for the championship. But race 1, my first win, was definitely a breakthrough for me. And it's typical. Well, it's not typical, but it's what they say, that once you get that first win, it's kind of like, it's, you kind of get into a tunnel of, okay, you can do it and you believe. So I definitely felt it after that first race win. And I think I might not have been the fastest on track that weekend, but I just think I had, the bike, and I had everything else. I had, the work that I had put in was under me. And I think I had the mentality that was the most important part. And Sunday was just exactly that. I actually remember being behind Bobby, maybe halfway through the race, and I was obviously pushing. And my first thing about, or thinking into race 2, was saying, damn it, this guy just, almost, I think, has a broken ankle, and he's, in front of me right now. So that didn't make me too happy, first of all. And And then I was saying, I won the race yesterday. I was like, it wouldn't be a good image if I don't win today again. So honestly, when I had that thought midway through the race, I'm like, yep, that just means I have to give it absolutely all I have. So it was honestly a lot of fun. Yeah, that last lap of race 2 was really, really nice, Bobby. It just, I think we both had really good racecraft, and as you guys know, it came down to the last 2 corners and to the last little straight. But honestly, it felt really good, even though I was also super proud of the efforts that Bobby put in, because that was something really important for me to see as well, because not everyone does what he did. It's not easy to race with an injury like that, and not only race, but also be at that level. So I was definitely, pretty proud of not only myself, but for the team and for Bobby as well.
Sean, tell us about, this is kind of a 3-part question for you. Do you like having a teammate? What's it like to have Bobby Fong as a teammate? Because Bobby is a different kind of a guy. Just his personality is awesome. But I mean, he's very, well, I won't explain it. He's just, once you get to know him, he's just a special kind of person. And also, did you learn, what did you learn from him as being your teammate this year? So kind of all those 3 in one, if you could kind of answer that.
Yeah, so for sure, having a teammate, I think, is super important. One, it's important for the team itself. When you have 2 competitive guys, it's the best for the team. And when the team is doing well, the riders can do even better. So I think that's one super important factor. And then also that, it was my rookie season. So to have a guy like Bobby, who comes from, a super bike, riding background, and just overall, very, fast guy. It was very helpful for me to progress, a lot faster. Within the team, we used data from day one on the 600s. We shared data, so that obviously helped me a lot to learn and to understand. And yeah, in general, it's just, I think it was important for me as a rookie to have someone competitive as a teammate to, try and learn the most and get up to speed faster. So that's what number one. And then, being Bobby itself, I mean, yeah, for sure. It was, to be honest, it was kind of hard to get to understand his personality at first. I think I've talked about this with him. I told him, obviously we only speak the truth. And I told him, I'm like, dude, I thought you were a douchebag the first time I met you. And then I noticed he's just, he's Bobby. So I was like, okay, I understand this guy now. And no, honestly, now we're super cool guys, or friends. I think better when we talk on the phone, maybe on the racetrack, not so much, but but for sure it's been an awesome experience.
And I don't think he'd have it any other way, right? He wouldn't have it any other way. He was so psyched to have you racing against him like you did at Pittsburgh. So that's something. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Up to this day, we still talk about, the cool battles and just, this first year as teammates has been super cool. So, obviously we're still as teammates in the same team, but, I don't know if we'll be on track the same time next year, but I guess, we'll see where that goes. But, it's definitely been an awesome experience with him so far.
That's great. Following up on that a little bit. So I don't think it's that well known, but it's fairly well known. And if not, then I'll let John Ulrich and Chris Ulrich yell at me. But I believe you've got a 2-year contract with Team Hammer. You had it when you started, which means, correct, by all intents and purposes, you're going to be back again this year. You maybe not be able to tell us or know yet what you're going to be doing, but you will be back with Hammer this year. Is that correct?
Yes, that's exactly correct.
Okay.
And that's all he's saying, apparently.
Can't really say. Yeah.
That's really all I can say. I mean, I did sign a 2-year contract with Team Hammer, and that's all I can say right now.
Yeah.
All right. I've got something for you.
It's good to know that you'll be back, whichever class. It's good to know that you're going to be with us again. So terrific.
Yeah.
Before we move on to other subjects, let's continue with last season, because the other big moment for you, and it wasn't a good one by any means, but when you crashed at Sonoma, it was one of the scariest crashes we had all season, and thankfully you came out of it with just the injuries you did, which was a pretty good bash to the face, but as I've told you before, I mean, in a way, there's some good that came of that as well, because it gives every other boy in the paddock a chance to maybe have the girls still like them, because I think your popularity with the girls has surpassed everybody else. So I think this maybe gives them a little leg up that your chin split. But then again, I saw you the last time I saw you, you couldn't even see it anymore. So that's probably passed by as well. But was that crash as scary to be involved in as it was to watch?
Honestly, man, it's kind of hard to explain. Honestly, I still remember, the last moment, before I hit the wall. And honestly, all I thought was, man, this is really going to hurt. And I tried my best in the moment to not hit the wall straight on, because I knew that if I hit the wall straight on, I was really going to get hurt. So, I guess it was, just the instinct of, I don't know from what training or from what, but I just reacted in the right way into putting this bike sideways and hitting the bike with both wheels. And I know for a fact that's what saved me. I walked away. Well, I didn't walk away, but I did walk away from the hospital a couple hours later. So no broken bones. And I was on the bike the next day, so a lot of people tell me, oh, why didn't you jump off the bike, or why didn't you do this? And I'm like, why don't you, get off the track at 80 miles an hour with a wall 50 feet away, and honestly, if I would have jumped off the bike at 80 miles an hour on a dirt, then I probably would have broken something, even if it's a little finger, but,
right.
And then I don't know what could have happened. I could have gone fast. If I would have tucked the front, I could have gone in front of the bike. I could have hit the wall and the bike could have hit me too, So I don't know. There were hundreds of scenarios that could have happened differently. Maybe it could have ended better, but what could have been better? That I wouldn't have gotten a little cut in my chin. I mean, it couldn't have been too much better than that, So honestly, I was super grateful to walk away from that with just 5 stitches in the chin. And to ride the next day was the most important thing for me. And it did suck to have to start from last the next day. But I think that race was also super important for me, because I surpassed something, first to get back on the bike and ride that track with the walls as close as they were. And also, with my face pretty swelled up and the helmet hurting at pretty much any moment. And starting from last, it was like, I had no pressure. It was just go forward. I couldn't go any other place. Well, maybe the wall, but it was just go forward, So I after that race, I definitely did learn a huge lesson, and I think that I benefited quite greatly from it.
How exactly did you get your injury to your chin? And do you know what caused it? The helmet, is that what it was?
So when I hit the wall, I hit the wall with the bike sideways. So both wheels hit the wall at the same time, which means that I was completely, straight up and down, as if I was just sitting on the bike normally. And I pretty much got squashed completely onto the bike, and my helmet, the face, like the visor, hit I don't know if it was the tank or just, the handlebar or just the front of the bike, some part in the front of the bike. And obviously I hit it so hard that the whole front of the helmet actually came down towards my face, and the bottom of the helmet hit my chin and split my chin open. And then that's why also I got a cut on top of my nose, and I got all bruised on my forehead because all of it got squashed down into me, and it, cut my upper nose as well. So yeah, it pretty much just sliced me good.
It's incredible that the helmet can move that much. And I mean, the fact that chin bar would be in that position on you, and everybody that wears a helmet knows a full face helmet knows it's pretty well padded on the bottom like that. But obviously that was a hard enough impact that would happen. That's crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was just, it's like, you never hear a chin opening because of the helmet. It usually happens because there's, either it's opened on, a little too much space on the bottom or something like that. But I haven't heard many stories of the actual helmet opening up a chin, but honestly, just the hit was such a direct impact that it was, super, super quick. But I mean, the helmet did its job. I have perfect memory of everything that happened during and everything that happened right after. So, I think that was the most important part. I mean, maybe a couple more screws got loose up in my head, but that's it's part of the game. It's okay.
That's to be expected.
I did a double at Pittsburgh after that, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, that's true. You did bounce back pretty quick.
That did.
Yep.
Okay, Sean, Dylan Kelly, not Sean Bice. Let's move on. You went through the year. Obviously, the year was fantastic. And then you get this unbelievable opportunity to go and race Moto2 in Spain, which was it was fun to watch. I think you did well. Obviously, you crashed, I think, the last lap or second to the last lap of the race. But I think what I did with you, and I'm sure most people that have any clue of how that stuff works over there. I mean, I just mainly watched your lap times from when you began to when you ended. And there was always a lot of improvement through each session and throughout the race. So I think that's really all you can set your goals at that point, because the level of competition, as everybody knows over there, is pretty incredible. So were you overall happy with not only the experience, but what you were able to achieve?
Yeah, honestly, it was a dream come true. Like the entire weekend was an absolute dream come true for me. It was just from the moment I got the news, my objective was just to go out there and enjoy and have fun. It was obviously very nerve wracking for me when I got the news, because I had no idea what to expect. It's not like I got the news earlier this year and I had time to prepare for it mentally and physically and everything else. But I just got it 2 weeks before and they were like, yep, Moto2 debut in 2 weeks, be ready. And I'm like, well, okay, that's that. But at the end of the day, it's what my not my parents, but just my family in general. It's what we've been working for our whole life. So there was never a doubt once the news came, and then, like I said, it was just the objective was to enjoy. And I went into the weekend, I was pretty much enjoying even the little bus ride that I had from one terminal to the other. So getting there and getting back into the paddock was amazing. First of all, I've been there in that paddock for 3 years, so it's pretty much home for me. And getting back in there was super special, and seeing everyone again was super special. And it's extra special when you walk in there as a rider for the first time. Well, I was a rider before with the Rookies Cup, but it's not the same. And honestly, it was spectacular. Being able to race with the American racing team and with that KTM Moto2 bike and Nikki Hayden's number 69, like everything just turned out to be so special, and then, going a little bit more into your question, am I happy about the weekend? Of course, I'm super happy. Was the race a huge punch in the gut? Yeah, of course. Crashing out 2 laps to go is never something good, especially on your debut. I definitely have, a little knife in my heart right now because of that. But to be honest, I think the race was only a certain percentage, and I think that we showed something important throughout the whole weekend. And like you said, Paul, I mean, the people that know, they know. And the people that don't know, they just said, oh yeah, he crashed on his debut and that's it. But like you said, the people that know, I mean, I finished in the qualifying 1.2 off of the world champion, like on my debut. I think that's something to be fairly proud of,
Absolutely. Yeah.
No
question.
The the expectation is, to go out there on your debut and, okay, yeah. Like the team told me, from the 2 weeks before when I got the news, it was just go out there, no pressure, do what you know what to do and just have fun. There was no expectation of gap or nothing, but honestly, I just really didn't want to be 4 seconds off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just chipped it away. I mean, FP1, I think I was like 3 seconds off. And then after that, it was like slowly, 2.5, and then it was 2, and then it was 1.5. And then in the qualifying, I finished, 1.7 from pole. So honestly, I was really, really happy about that. I had a few guys behind me, which had, been riding on the Moto2 bike all year, and they have lots of years on a Moto2 bike in general. So I was just super up to that point. I was already super, super excited. And like I said, the race which was a big, punch in my gut, but the conditions were super, super difficult. It was a lot windier. I'm not trying to put excuses, but it was just facts. It was a lot windier. It was a lot colder, and I was just not used to those conditions. And at the end of the day, I just made a little silly mistake, and I crashed the same way Alex Marquez did. So at least I can say I crashed like the world champ crashed. So I don't feel that bad. But yeah, in general, it was
there you go.
An amazing weekend and a huge dream come true.
Sean, as much as you can, or as much as you're willing to, can you explain to us how you got that ride? How it came about? You said it happened pretty quickly. Was it I'm sure it had something to do with maybe your connection with the Red Bull Rookies Cup, possibly. Did Team Hammer have some involvement? Can you tell us and how that happened?
So I know the owner of the American racing team, who is Eaton, and I know him from my Red Bull Rookies Cup days. So he's actually been following me for 2 to 3 years now. And he's always been, he's always shown a lot of interest, and he's always shown support one way or another. And this year he was following me super, super closely. And the reason this wild card came up is because his 2 riders are Joe Roberts and Iker Lecuona, which is a Spanish rider. And Iker is going up to GP next year, to MotoGP, but he got the opportunity to jump on the MotoGP bike already starting Valencia. So because he jumped onto the MotoGP bike at Valencia, it left the Moto2 slot open. And it was honestly just a phone call, like the special phone call that we always, talk about and everyone hears about, that it's just a phone call and everything changes. Well, that actually happened to me. So it was literally just,
Wow.
A super late call. I went to pick up my mom. She works late nights, and I picked her up at the restaurant where she works, and we went home, and I literally walked in at home at like 12:30 at night, and I see I get a message from him. He says, "Call me when you can." So obviously it was, pretty late, and he never texts me that randomly. So I'm like, okay, this must be something. So I give him a call, and he's like, would you be able to come to Valencia in 2 weeks? I'm like, well, I was planning on being there one way or another, just to watch. And he says, well, my Moto2 bike is open and I want you on the bike. And I kind of froze there for a second. And I'm like, did you just say what I think you said? And yeah, I mean, after that, it wasn't that direct. He did say it like that, but it wasn't 100% sure. He said, okay, the opportunity is there, but I'm not 100% sure. I just want to, I want to have you ready, start getting some things done, but don't say anything yet. It's not sure. And he didn't confirm until like 4 days later. So I didn't sleep for 4 nights. It was really bad. I swear I actually did struggle to sleep at night. So, but anyways, obviously I slept, well, I tried to sleep that night. And then the first thing I did was, call up Chris and, spoke to Chris, spoke to John, and, we went over, a few things. They spoke directly, Eaton, the American racing team owner, and my boss, John and Chris, they had their conversations, made sure that there were, everything was in the right way. And, the Ulrich guys were super, super happy for the opportunity as well. They definitely helped make sure that everything was on good terms, and also they made it happen, because sponsors were completely, different, and it was a little bit, contrary, but all the sponsors were good. There was no problem between our contract, and they gave me the okay. So everything after that was just really get everything ready in a week. So I had to, do a lot of moving around in those 2 weeks, but it was all completely worth it. So it was also nice because Chris was able to go to Valencia as well. So he was there helping me out, and we all got to sit down and do some nice talking as well.
Well, the one thing is like you have a lot of racing experience, obviously, including racing experience in Europe, as you mentioned with the Red Bull Rookies Cup. But what's it like when you jump on that bike? It's not like you're at a test. I mean, you're thrown out to the wolves, without a doubt. So you're pulling out of the pits and you're going onto the racetrack with the best guys in the world. What are you going? Like, most of us would be like, oh crap, I got to stay out of everybody's way. I don't want to look like an idiot. I mean, does that go through your brain, or doesn't work that way with you?
Well, we're all human, so yes, it does work like that. And honestly, I just was, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't really know what to expect. The only thing I knew what to expect was that I was going to have the, excuse my language, the oh shit moment. And I was just waiting for that moment. I was waiting for the moment of saying, I'm going to go on track and I'm going to have Alex Marquez pass me or Brad Binder pass me. And I'm going to say, oh shit, this is where I am right now. But it actually turned out to be a lot smoother than I thought. I feel like I was just, enjoying a lot that weekend, and I was just in the right mental spot the whole weekend. And I just went out there and did my job like any other day. I just made sure that I was 100% focused, and I was putting all my best energy to do what I know what to do, and I definitely adapted to the right way with that bike, and I definitely didn't slack in my work, but for sure it was like that moment did pass by, and it wasn't just one moment like saying, oh wow, this is where I am, but it was more like every time I was on track, or every time I was looking at the fans, or every time I was going into pits and I was seeing one rider, seeing this or seeing that, I'm like, wow, this feels good. Like this is what we've been dreaming for. My family and I have worked extremely hard for it. So it was just something that we had nothing better to do but to enjoy it at the time. So it was definitely something super, super special, and I'll keep it forever.
How different, Sean, is that bike, a Moto2 bike, or that Moto2 bike from a Supersport bike or your M4 bike? And I'm not trying to criticize the M4, the GSXR 600 Suzuki at all, but is it really hugely different, or does it feel? Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, yeah. First of all, there's nothing to criticize. I mean, they're just both completely different bikes. It's one is a GP bike and one is a street bike. So the Moto2 bike, the chassis is built for the track. It's built to go as fast as possible and to push to the absolute limit. And it was first of all really nice to ride that bike because it had the Triumph engine, which I had obviously never ridden before. Right. And the riding style was much different, not because of the engine, or not only because of the engine, but also, the chassis, the way, like I said, it's much rigid, a lot more rigid. And the riding style is completely different. The way that the bike responds to trail braking is completely different. It just the power input is different.
Does it feel smaller? Engine. Does it feel like a smaller bike? When you sit on it.
So I was surprised because I jumped back on my on a Gixxer 600 last weekend, and when I jumped on the 600, I noticed that it felt smaller. So I'm like, wait a second, that's totally opposite to what I thought, But it's just because the Moto2 bikes are so aerodynamic that they're a little bit wider. Like they are, it doesn't make sense because technically a more aerodynamic would have to be, more skinny, but the tanks and the chassis, just it's the fit is different. Like when you're sitting on it, it's just a different feel. So like in general, it's not a day and night difference in terms of size, but because it's built for you to be in a more racing position, I guess you can say, it does give this different sensation, But honestly, once you're riding it, you don't notice like a huge size difference. It's more of just the riding style and how much you can push it, because the limit is so much further on those things.
Well, as much as I'd like you to go to Grand Prix racing, and I think at some point you will, and I know that's what you want more than anything. I'd also like to see you stick around in MotoAmerica for a bit, because I think it would be fun to watch you on a superbike, and it would be fun to have you as a superbike champion, and then we could let you go. So can we make a deal right now to just go ahead and do that?
You're going to have to give me a really, really good contract.
Sean, the other Sean's got all the money, not me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Bice, we can let Paul go to his little party after this and start drinking those cocktails for you, and we'll stick to the contract and see those terms. All right.
There you go.
Exactly. I hear you.
So
yeah, we're left out. We can be the party crashers.
You can't tell us anything about next year, correct?
I can say a couple things.
Okay, please.
And by a couple, one is what you already know, and it's that I have next year with Team Hammer. And two, it's that the American racing team is interested in a couple more plans with me for next year.
Mm-hmm.
After my debut at Valencia. And that's literally all I can say. I have no other information, not because I can't say, but also just because I don't know, but that is the latest.
Well, it's easier when you don't know to not say.
Exactly. But most of people are just going to say, oh, he's just not saying it because he's not allowed to. It's like, no, I just really don't know.
Right. They keep you in the dark.
I might get a call I might get a call 2 weeks before, and then I'll go do a race. But
now that American racing team, they're actually getting new bikes, right? For next year?
Yeah, they're going to be running Calyx and Olin suspension for 2020.
And that's been the most successful combo so far since even before they changed to the Triumph, right?
Yes, okay. Correct. Calyx has been the winning chassis for a very long time now.
So if you had that chassis, then you'd be 1.7 seconds faster, right?
Well, I'd like to prove that maybe one day. Well, actually, now that you brought that up, I'm actually pretty grateful that I did my debut with the KTM, because sure, they were winning races at the end of the year with Brad Binder and Martin was up there and a couple other riders with the KTM, but in general, first of all, my KTM was not Brad Binder's KTM, but it was it's said by any rider or any person in the paddock that the KTM was not at the level of any other Moto2 bike, and I think for me, for it to be for my first jump on the World Championship Moto2 to be on a KTM, I think was super important, because now I know that I had to do that much to be at that distance on that bike. And I think that if I jump on what is supposed to be a more competitive bike, then it will just be a better stepping stone, because I'd rather be KTM to Calyx than if I rode a Calyx this time and then my next time is a KTM,
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think the step will be more natural, and hopefully it'll be better for me. But yeah, I had a lot of people ask me, oh, how's the KTM chassis, or how's the Triumph engine? And I'm like, honestly, everything is completely new to me. I can't really compare it to a Calyx chassis because I had never ridden one, or I can't compare it to the old CBR Moto2 engine because I had never ridden one either, So I think considering that everything was completely new to me, it made it easier, or just made it to a better transition for me.
I just had to leave where I was because my dog was barking. Could you hear the dog in the background?
Yeah, we could kind of hear the dog, but that's okay. The dog's Maybe we need a third.
Sean, I thought that was you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, barking. I do bark at the moon once in a while, and it was a full moon last night. So
yeah, there you go, and you have hair on your back.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
Sean,
God.
we're excited to find out what you're going to be doing next. I mean, hopefully it's something for sure with MotoAmerica, and let us know. Let us know when you know, so we can kind of get the word out there. And you're a
Absolutely.
great ambassador for the sport. We see you with fans, and you're one of the favorites. And you got a nice magnetic personality, and you carry
Awesome.
my namesake very well. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's definitely enjoyable to be with the fans, and obviously I think that's one of the most important things, because at the end of the day we wouldn't live, or we wouldn't be able to enjoy our sport without everyone watching and supporting around us. So for sure it's something that we need to look out for all the time.
Well, I think that's a good jumping off spot, don't you, Sean?
I do. Yeah. Good to have it. Good to talk to you, Sean.
Yeah, Sean Dillon Kelly.
Awesome.
Again, thanks for joining us. It's your second time on the show, and we already look forward to a third time. So, good luck with this off season.
Likewise.
I hope it treats you well. I hope you stay safe and healthy, and get all your training done. And we look forward to seeing you as we get ready to start the next year.
Likewise. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. And to everyone listening, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Sean Dillon Kelly. I appreciate it. And follow MotoAmerica too. Paul will be happy I said that.
There you go, son. Thank you very much. We'll talk soon.
Great.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Enjoy
I
the
appreciate
party,
it.
Paul.
All right. Thank you.